It is 1:38. Appreciate everyone's just getting lunch and getting back quickly. And thank you, Mr. Court Reporter, for getting back as quickly. And we're back on the record, and I'll turn it back over to Judge Ryan.
Thank you so much. And so we're on the record for this hearing? Thank you very much. Okay, we are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Consumer Affairs for the state of California. And we're moving on to the next petition on our agenda. From here on, we'll be following the agenda, starting with Ms. Brever, and then from there on. So this is a petition for early termination of probation for Judy Brever, LMFT license number 32458. This is OAH case number 2019100895. My name is Wim van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings that's been assigned to preside over this case. Today is November 20th, 2019, and it's approximately 1:39 p.m., and we're in Sacramento, California. Can I please have the board members identify themselves for the record, starting with the board member on my furthest left?
He's so nice.
Deborah Brown, public member.
Max Disposti, public member.
Betty Conley, LEP member.
Jonathan Maddox, MFT member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Crystal Anthony, LCSW member.
Christina Wong, LCSW member.
Thank you very much, and I do find that the quorum of the board is present for this petition hearing. And for the record, the reason I'm going the other way is because I've been told I have a propensity to start on the right side of the board, and that I should switch it up occasionally, and I take that to heart. So that's what I'll try to do. May I please have appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Good afternoon, Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General.
And good afternoon, Ms. Seamantel. And for the petitioner?
Judy Brever, LMFT. I'm here to reinstate my license to early terminate probation.
All right, and good afternoon to you, Ms. Brever. So before the hearing, off the record, I explained the proceedings of this matter, and you've also, I know, been in the audience and have observed a few. As I explained, the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to present the case as well as your petition packet, and after that, you'll have an opportunity under oath to give a presentation as to why you believe your petition should be granted. You can obviously testify yourself. You also have the ability to call any other witnesses you'd like to testify. And you and those witnesses would be subject to questioning by the Deputy Attorney General and members of the board. The board is particularly concerned with rehabilitation that you've been engaged in, and I'll just remind you that they have had the opportunity to review your petition packet. You don't need to repeat everything in there, but if there's things you want to highlight, you're more than welcome to do so. You won't receive a decision at the hearing today. I will prepare a written decision for the board president's signature after the hearing within 30 days, and then it's up to them in their procedures when to finalize that. Do you have any questions at this point in time?
Not at this time.
All right, thanks so much. Then I'll turn it over to Ms. Seamantel to present the case.
Thank you. My name is Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. If I may approach with the exhibit.
You may, thank you. Thank you so much.
A copy has been previously provided to petitioner. What I would ask to have marked as Exhibit 1 contains the notice of hearing, certification of license history, the petition for modification of probation, early termination of probation with supporting documentation, including a 2011 board letter regarding petitioner's successful completion of probation, criminal court documents, a 2017 board letter regarding completion of the equivalency of 2 semester units in the field of alcohol or substance abuse, and 6 support letters. The packet also contains the decision in the matter of the petition for modification of probation for petitioner, and then finally the stipulated settlement and order.
Any objection to admission of Exhibit 1?
No.
All right, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
What I would ask to have marked as Exhibit 2 contains petitioner's psychological evaluation and psychotherapy quarterly reports. I would ask that there be a protective order regarding that exhibit.
Thank you so much. And I have received a proposed protective order that Ms. Siementhal has prepared. Do you have, other than the issue of confidentiality of Exhibit 2, do you have any objections to Exhibit 2?
No.
All right, so I have reviewed it, and I do believe it qualifies for protection because of the confidentiality of medical and psychological information. So I will sign the protective order on the record, and you will be served with a copy of the protective order by the Office of Administrative Hearings as well as the Deputy Attorney General. And with that, I will also admit Exhibit 2, subject to the terms of the protective order.
Thank you.
For a brief background, the board issued petitioner licensed marriage and family therapist license number LMFT 32458 on June 20th, 1995. The license expires on September 30th, 2020. The license is on probation until January 11th, 2021. On January 30th of 2009, in case number MF-2008-996, an accusation was filed against petitioner, and on January 7th of 2010, petitioner was placed on probation for 1 year. On July 17th of 2015, in case number MF-2014-125, an accusation was filed against petitioner. The circumstances underlying the accusation are that petitioner was convicted in 2013 of driving under the influence of alcohol. The conviction was based upon respondent driving in 2013 after drinking vodka and had signs of intoxication. Respondent refused to submit to a blood or breath test as required by law. Respondent's conduct was also a dangerous use of alcohol and a violation of the Marriage and Family Therapist Act. As a disciplinary consideration, the accusation alleged that in 2010, petitioner's license was placed on 1-year probation based upon the Arizona Board of Behavioral Health Examiners suspending petitioner's license for failing to report child abuse. Pursuant to a stipulated settlement, petitioner's license was revoked. However, the revocation was stayed, and petitioner's license was placed on 5 years of probation. The terms of petitioner's probation included undergoing a psychological evaluation, attending psychotherapy, submitting to drug and alcohol testing, attending a dependency support program, reimbursement to the board for its probation monitoring costs, and completing coursework equivalent to 2 semester units in substance use or abuse. On April 4th, 2018, petitioner's probation was modified to eliminate supervised practice, to limit random biological fluid testing to 2 times per month, and to allow petitioner to choose the approved support program as petitioner was not required to attend Al-Anon meetings. Respondent has been compliant with all of her probation requirements. Probationer is requesting early termination of her probation. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question petitioner.
Thank you, Ms. Siementhal. All right, now, Ms. Rivera, it's your opportunity to present your case. First of all, let me check you. Would you like to testify on your own behalf?
Yes.
All right, and just for logistical purposes, do you have any additional documents not part of the petition packet that you wish to introduce today?
I don't. I just have a couple corrections from what was read already, if that's okay.
That's you can do that as part of your testimony once
Okay.
you're under oath. That's no problem.
problem.
And did you have any other witnesses other than yourself today?
No.
All right, great. Okay, why don't you stand, raise your right hand, and I'll swear you in. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much. Please have a seat. And again, I'll just remind you that that the board has already had an opportunity to review your packet, so you can just highlight the points you believe are important, including any, as you mentioned, clarifications or corrections you wish to make. All right, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I just wanted to thank you all for allowing me to come and testify and to request early termination of my probation. I appreciate the opportunity, and I don't know anyone else hadn't cried right away, but this is not an easy, not a comfortable thing to do, to talk, openly about.
Take your time and take a deep breath. I know this is difficult, and it's a lot of people in the room, so just take a moment to collect yourself. There's some tissues on your you got it. If you need more, there's some more, and just take your time. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to be here. It has been difficult, to say the least. I know that you have my packet and all the written documentation. My rehabilitation started long before I got my DUI and my discipline. And in the beginning, I was very angry about being disciplined. I thought, who's the board to tell me I can't have a glass of wine at dinner? But I get it now. I get that I used alcohol to cope with the difficulties I was going through in 2012. And I never thought I would say this, but the discipline has been very helpful to me. It's kept me on track. It's kept me going to AA. I found a home group that I really look forward to, actually. I have commitments there. I meet all the requirements, and I think I'm ready to do this on my own. I have a sponsor. I attended therapy long before, like I said, I was disciplined, and talked about the things that I had been up against, and I would continue to go when necessary. I'm not opposed to therapy whatsoever. I've sought it out many times, and it's been helpful. And I know that if challenges presented themselves again to me, I would definitely participate in that. I plan on continuing, like I said, to be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I wanted to correct the discipline I had that was filed in 2004, actually, in Arizona, was failure to make a timely child abuse report. It was not a failure to make a report. I had been making child abuse reports, it seemed like daily, because I've worked with juvenile sexual offenders for 27 years. And I know that when I call them, sometimes they say, "You don't have enough information, can you call us back?" I had no information. The probation officer that I was working with the youth at the time, called, and they told him the same thing. So I was trying to do my due diligence in gathering information, which you're really not supposed to do. You're not to, it's suspected. You're not supposed to research information and gather information. And I know that now, and I tell everyone I work with, do not ask me if you should call. You should always call, no matter what information you have, if you feel that that's necessary or it's suspected child abuse. I take full responsibility for drinking and driving. Something I'm not proud of, and something that I will ensure that would absolutely never happen again. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I'll give you just a second to collect yourself and take whatever time you need. And once you're ready, Ms. Siementhal, you can proceed with questions. Thank you.
I'm good.
You have completed a little over 3 years out of the 5 years of your probationary term, is that correct?
Yes.
Specifically, why do you want your board probation terminated?
I believe I believe it's time to end the probationary period. I know that I've learned my lesson. My supervisor feels that it may be necessary for me to help sign hours for people. She's written a letter. I'm the clinical director at the facility. I was promoted in 2017 after my discipline. And they'd like to utilize me in any capacity that they choose, and feel that I'm an asset to the organization. I've been there 27 years. I've worked 33 years in the field of human services, particularly with juvenile delinquents and their families. And my work has not been impacted. I've never been written up. I've never been disciplined at work. I've received many awards and glowing evaluations, and I would like to be able to continue doing that work in the future.
Bless you. On July 22nd of 2013, you were arrested for driving under the influence. Is that correct?
Yes.
You stated in your petition that you made a, quote, poor choice to drink and drive. Why did you decide to drink and drive in 2013?
I don't believe there's one specific answer for that. I don't think I consciously thought, okay, I think it's okay to do this. I had a compilation of things happening in my life, and I was utilizing alcohol to cope, and I didn't think that I had had too much to drink, and decided to go to the outlet mall, and then changed my mind to return home, and was pulled over. I refused to take the alcohol or test that they offered because I was fearful of what it would do to my license. But obviously, I wasn't utilizing good judgment to drink and drive in the first place. So it was poor judgment. It was a bad decision. I know I've had drinks and have driven many, many times in my life and never thought that I was of the limit, over the legal limit. And it doesn't take a whole lot. And it was absolutely poor judgment. And stopping the use of alcohol has been the best thing that's happened to me. I never thought that I could do that. Everything since high school revolved around having a drink or bringing a drink, or every advertisement, everything. And once I made that decision to stop, and the board's help with that, it has just been a minor inconvenience in my life to not be a part of having a drink when other people are participating in that, or explaining why I don't drink. It's not been a problem, and it's just been a blessing, actually. I never thought that God would show up in a Ventura County Sheriff's uniform, but he did.
You had stated that you used to use alcohol to cope. What type of coping mechanisms or other methods do you now utilize, I'm assuming other than alcohol, to deal with any stressful or difficult situations?
I hike, I exercise, I run. I used to swim when I belonged to Gold's Gym, but I don't swim. The pool's not long enough where I live. I scrapbook still. I talked about all these things that I used to cope last time. I still make jewelry. I still explore different things in LA with my daughter. We have fun trying to figure out what we haven't done that maybe we could do, like slide down the glass slide on the 72nd floor of the Sky Space building, things like that. Just things that instead of sitting at home and, well, I do sit at home and read. I love to read. I have many things to do. I call people. I call my sponsor. I call friends. I've had one of my best friends since the third grade. I can call her anytime. I feel lucky to have friends like that. Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I have a lot of different things I do to take care of myself and to cope. I talk to people. I would call my therapist, my sponsor.
And just for clarification, if there was anything that you recall that you said in your last petition hearing, please make sure to go ahead and repeat that for this one, because this will be an entirely separate record, and there are probably different board members, so just don't feel that you're being
Okay.
repetitive from the last time.
Okay.
Was there anything else with that in mind that you would like to add in regards to answering that question?
I don't think, and nothing I can think of at this time.
As one of the narratives to your petition, you state that your actions to rehabilitate yourself started January 11th of 2012 by voluntarily entering therapy. What do you mean that you started to rehabilitate yourself back in the beginning of 2012?
I believe I actually worded it that way because when I was arrested, they sent a letter to state, I didn't go to court for 11 months after I was arrested, so I kept communicating with the board the ways that I have rehabilitated myself, which is what they're asking for. So I voluntarily, before I got the DUI, went to therapy to deal with my husband was arrested because of his poor choices. I had lost my home. I was homeless with my daughter. My 2 Rottweilers. I had to find a place to stay, which happened to be in Burbank, so I sought therapy at that time. I took a fall at this older woman's home, and a speaker caught my eye before my hands reached the floor, and I shattered my eye socket. I was rear-ended on the 118 by someone who was going 65 plus, and I was at a dead stop, which sent my car airborne on top of another car. I made efforts to try to talk to someone about all this. Sorry, it was just a really rough time. I had found a place for both my dogs to go. They were both killed 1 year apart. One was poisoned and one got hit by a car. I had to sell all my furniture. The person who bought it didn't finish paying me and stopped contacting me. To this day still owes me $3,300, but I've let that go. It's in my step 5, if you know the 12 steps. I sought to, I didn't talk though at that time about the fact that I was drinking. So I think that was part of the problem.
Was it after you were arrested for driving under the influence that you then began to discuss that? And again, I found a therapist on my own because I hadn't been disciplined until 2 years after, 3 years actually, after my DUI. So I hadn't gone to court, and then they hadn't finalized it. And I sought out my own therapy and entered into an intensive outpatient program that was very helpful, that I went to voluntarily 3 times a week. And I was very open from that point on about my drinking, which I hadn't been in 2011. Now, for a point of clarification, the accusation alleges that the incident, the actual driving under the influence offense, occurred July 22nd of 2013.
Yes.
So you stated that in 2011, was it another driving under the influence incident at that time?
No, I had all those things that I had indicated that were happening in my life, and I sought therapy to help me cope with the overwhelming feelings that I had at the time.
And then after 2013 is when you began to go to therapy and,
with a different therapist because I had moved from the area, so I sought a therapist and the intensive outpatient program.
and during that therapy is when you started speaking about your drinking alcohol?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that I had that correct. You stated during your testimony here today that my understanding is that you would attend therapy kind of as needed if your probation was terminated. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
If you could please explain how this time around attending therapy as needed if your probation was terminated would be different this time from when you saw a therapist back in 2013. It's my understanding that you had been seeing a therapist up until July 8th of 2013, and then approximately 2 weeks later, on July 22nd of 2013, is when you were arrested for driving under the influence. Can you please explain how now it would be different if the board were to allow you to not be under the requirement to attend therapy on a regular basis, but it would be, as you indicated, kind of on an as-needed basis based on your determination?
How it would be different in terms of what I would talk about, or how it would be.
How can you assure the board that there might not be a relapse of some sort based upon not having a regular attendance at therapy?
I have a pretty solid relapse prevention plan in place. I talk to my sponsor all the time. I actually talk to my therapist. I go once a week, but she's very helpful to me, and I have the ability to call her. She also does webinars and podcasts, and she's written a couple books, and she's real big in the recovery community and in the codependency community. So I feel very comfortable. I feel that now that I have moved past being ashamed, even though it's hard today to talk about when a camera's right on you in front of people, I feel that I have the ability now to not have to hide that I drank and that it became a problem. And just being honest and open and going to my recovery meetings, that everybody's just so honest and open, and it's really been helpful to me. I know that now I have a place to go, 7 a.m. every Saturday, and then at 8:30 a.m. on Saturday, my two favorite meetings that I attend. I have real close connections there. It's just very different than when I first went and was talking about, feeling like the victim and all these things that were happening to me. And in fact, I have the power to cope and survive and to be honest and be okay with that. Because I've been a therapist and licensed since '95 doesn't mean that I'm not human and that I've had my own struggles. So I'm sorry I keep crying.
You stated that you have a relapse prevention plan. What does that entail?
That entails meetings. In particular, it entails calling my sponsor. It entails self-care. I have a real good support group at work, actually. I told them what happened immediately. They've been very supportive. My supervisor's been my supervisor for 27 years. Very strong woman, very direct and assertive and helpful. The executive director is a friend of mine because we've been working together too. I just feel there's people that I've surrounded myself and through this process have been open and honest with, and it's like a safety net I have to fall back on, that has been helpful, and I trust will continue to be helpful because I haven't been afraid to reach out to anyone since I got my DUI. I haven't been afraid to be honest and open. I've been ashamed and been embarrassed, but I have found that by being open, people have been helpful to me. So continuing my self-care, continuing my meetings, continuing to reach out to people, whether it's a therapist or my sponsor or other people that I'm close to. I'm not afraid to do that. And again, I feel it's been very helpful. I feel like I keep repeating myself. I'm sorry.
You state in your petition that you have actively participated in self-help groups and attended meetings since 2012. What groups or meetings are you referring to?
Well, groups was the intensive outpatient program. It was 3 times a week for, I believe it was 4 hours, 3 times a week. At that time, I was introduced to refuge recovery. It's sort of the Eastern AA philosophy. I've attended AA meetings in different areas that I've lived, starting at that time in Burbank. But I felt more at home with the groups I found in Westlake Village, right around the corner from my house. I have attended a double winners meetings, which is when you're struggling with both Al-Anon and AA. I've attended Al-Anon through my class, the class that I was required to take, which I took 3 units of, not 2. I know the requirement was 2. They took you through, this class took us through the 12 steps as it relates to being a woman. I have, double winners, Emotions Anonymous, CODA, Codependency, Adult Children of Alcoholics. I've tried all different meetings. I attend church. That's another thing that I do for self-care. My daughter is a leader in her church group, and a leader in her church group, and so we attend church together quite a bit. Those types of self-help groups.
You began attending weekly AA meetings in 2016, is that right?
Weekly, yes.
And are you currently still attending 1 time per week or more?
I attend anywhere from 2 to 4 a week.
What is your sobriety date?
September 12th, 2016. I know they had it in the paperwork as the 15th, but that wasn't accurate.
Your driving under the influence conviction was in 2014, is that right?
13.
Oh, the conviction itself.
Oh, the conviction. Yes, 2014. It was 11 months after I was arrested.
Could you please explain what was occurring as to why your sobriety date is approximately 2 years after the conviction date that you had from your driving under the influence case?
Oh, my sobriety date is 365 days of continuous sobriety. There were large, periods of time, months and months that I wasn't drinking, but I thought at that time that I wasn't an alcoholic and that I could drink. That's the obsession that we think when you have a drinking problem, that someday we could drink like normal people again. And I feel like once you become a cucumber or a pickle, you can no longer be a cucumber. And I finally got that during that time. I'm a pickle.
Are you an alcoholic?
I am.
And I know you've referenced step 5, so
Yes.
would it be safe to assume that you're working the 12 steps?
I have worked the 12 steps several times, yes. Through school, actually, that was one way of working them. I've worked them with my sponsor, and I've also worked them in therapy with my therapist. She's very familiar with recovery.
What step are you currently on?
I am continuously on 10, 11, and 12 because that's the maintenance part of the program. At some point, maybe I will. I mean, people do choose different sponsors and do the steps again with a different person. I really have been comfortable with the person that I chose, and she's been very helpful to me. So I just have to be mindful if I have to go back and redo any of the steps. I need to. I think I'm pretty solid with 1, 2, and 3. I have a problem. I was powerless over alcohol, and I came to believe that there was something that could help me.
If your probation with the board is terminated, do you plan on attending or continuing to attend, AA meetings, and if so, how often?
I absolutely do. I took another commitment recently to ensure that. A commitment is when you volunteer to perform a duty, whether you're the secretary and you run the meeting. Right now, I'm the phone list person, so I'm updating the phone list and passing them out, or whether you do birthday cakes or you're the greeter. So I think taking commitments is helpful to ensure that I'm going to continue. But I really enjoy going to the 7 a.m. meeting for sure. And not many people want to get up at 5:30 so that they could get to a meeting at 7 if they didn't like attending. So I plan for sure on continuing to attend my Saturday morning meetings. And I was just introduced to a new double winners meeting on Wednesday, and I'd like to, if I can get off work in time, to continue participating in that group as well. It's a nice small group of people.
In addition to things you've already stated in your testimony and in answering the questions, is there anything else that you would like to tell the board as to how you can assure them that you can safely practice if your probation is terminated?
Sort of rereading the packet. I would just like to say that I'm committed to continuing in the profession that I've enjoyed for 33 years. I have learned a lot. I enjoy working with the youth that I work with. Not many people like the juvenile delinquent adolescent type, but I do actually. And their families. I plan on continuing my sobriety. I plan on continuing to reach out for help and support when needed. I have no problem admitting when I need help. I think us in the helping profession need that. There's a lot of trauma that I listen to day in and day out, particularly working with the juvenile sex offenders, which I have for 27 years, and listening to their stories on top of what they've done, because most of the program is about taking responsibility to ensure that you don't repeat the cycle of abuse. It's not easy. So I think reaching out for help is a necessity when I need to do that. I just feel like I'm on point. I have not wavered in my conditions. I have never missed a call into the testing between 5 and 6 a.m. I've had bad dreams about missing calls, but I haven't missed a call. I feel like I'm in a routine, and I'm comfortable with that, and I have a close-knit support system that is helpful to me as a safety net, and all kinds of things that I do to enjoy sobriety. I recommend it, by the way. It's been a blessing.
Since you submitted your application, have you been convicted of any criminal offenses?
No.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Cementel. All right, and now it's the opportunity for board members to ask questions, starting on my very left, Ms. Brown.
I'd like to thank council for doing a great job. I have all the things I wanted to ask, and you've already done all of that. So my question, since you're going to continue to go to AA, you're going to continue with your sponsor, therapy as needed. Are you looking then to, because you were already granted a little bit before that the board came down on some of the things.
Right.
So are you looking for total because of professional development? You mentioned that kind of at the beginning. Is that what predominantly is driving
Yes.
you towards coming back this time?
Yes, I would like to end the probation early so that I could continue to help in the agency that I'm with in terms of signing clinical hours. I oversee all the programs. I oversee the national accreditation. I oversee the residential side of the program. Now that we've had to have a Department of Mental Health contract, there's a mental health director. I'm the clinical director, and we bridge together. They really just need me in any capacity they would like. I don't really supervise hours, but if needed, they would like to be able to use me for that. I used to teach CEU hours. We don't have those registered with the board at this time, so they don't need me to do that. But if at some point they do that again and seek to have me as an instructor, as an expert in sex offender treatment and drug treatment, I would like to be able to have those opportunities, yes.
Okay, and then my last question, are you a sponsor for anyone in AA?
I'm not yet. No, I wanted to focus on myself and my discipline and my work. It's been very challenging with the new continuum of care reform and the new requirements for STRTPs and writing the program statements and the interim licensing standards and all that. I just didn't feel, and I give of myself to 78 adolescents every day, every day, but that's how many youth we have on a daily basis on average. So I plan to do that in the future. I plan to take someone through the 12 steps and 12 promises, and I wouldn't have a problem doing that. I just haven't fit that in right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Disposti.
Really not further questions from me, but I just want to commend you for coming and sharing, and also for loving your job, which is really outstanding. Not a lot of people really are challenged by the environment of. I've seen it, how traumatic can be to work with a population like that. So thank you for sharing again. So no further question.
Thank you.
Madam President?
I'd like to thank you for coming in. You've done a lot of work, really recognize that. Sounds like you've got a pretty good plan. I am a little bit curious about that sobriety date, and I know it's probably just my not understanding. You said your sobriety date was 2016. And you say that celebrated a year of sobriety, so you actually stopped drinking the year before that. Is that what you were?
No, what I'm saying is when anyone's asked about a sobriety date, it's 365 days of continuous sobriety. So on September 12th.
So that started your 300, that started.
So I've been sober since September
Okay.
12th, 2016,
Okay, I misunderstood.
consistently.
Thank you, I
Yeah,
misunderstood.
there were times before that I was sober for long periods of time, but I never celebrated sobriety birthdays.
Because you were
or-
still drinking.
I was,
Yeah,
yeah.
got it. Okay, so that helps me understand that whole thing. Anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Maddox?
Thank you for coming. I don't have any questions. It's
All
very
right.
nice hearing your story today. Thank you.
Ms. Brew?
No questions.
All right. Ms. Anthony?
I just want to comment because I love to comment. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for being an example of what treatment can look like when you do it on your own, and then when you make the steps, once there's consequences, and then you have to do it. But you really took it upon yourself to do it prior, so I think I commend that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wong?
Just a very quick question. So I think you appeared to the board February 2018?
Yes.
Yes. So it's been almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. So what's the difference, from that to now? of you, what,
Oh, what's
for
different
you.
about,
Yes,
for me?
in terms of your, your recovery, your rehabilitation, time has passed.
Time has passed. I think as time goes by, I become more solid in my recovery and my commitment and my appreciation, really, for the time that I have taken to be committed and consistent with that.
And so, so do you feel that, the boards, I put it this way. So, the first time you were asking for modification and some of the things, were given to you and some of
Yes.
the things were not. And so, so when you got those results and, how did you, handle your emotions? And, did you have like any urge that, because of whatever the emotional response that, feel like that you need to go back to drinking or?
Actually, I was grateful for the modification. It was very expensive, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to be supervised by a supervisor who I've had for 27 years, who knew me better than most people. And so the random testing, it's still random. You don't know, and to me, it was just a reprieve from financially. It was and from worrying about, if I'm going to a conference, do I have enough time to not be late? And so I can get my CEUs, and, I have to go test, and I don't want to wait till the end of the day because you never know what traffic's going to be like. It's very stressful. And I have ulcerative colitis, so it creates real hardship physically.
Well, thank you very much, for willing to come up here and and just to petition again that this is what I
Yes.
want. And
Right.
I think that self-advocacy is pretty important.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Siementel. Was there anything else?
No.
All right. And I just want to provide you a final, was there anything you wanted to add that we haven't discussed yet?
I don't think so. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed, the case is submitted for decision, and we are off the record in this matter. That's fine by me. The next one.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Roll it.
Roll it.
Good
All
roll?
right.
Okay. I looked around, I didn't have any, kind of waving desperately.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, actually, our court reporter needs just like 2 or 3 minutes to switch over to the next case, so yeah.
So that'll work. Please, thank you. We'll go back on the record, Judge.
All right. Are we on the record?
Wait a minute, we need to give,
All right. All right.
okay.
We are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California, and we are on to our next petition, which is the petition for early termination of probation for Aaron Oden. This is ASW license number 76594 and OAH case number 2019100908. My name is Wim Van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings that's been assigned to preside over the matter today. Today is November 20th, 2019. It is now approximately 2:31 p.m., and we're in Sacramento, California. Will the members of the board please identify themselves for the record, starting with the board member on my furthest left?
Deborah Brown, public member.
Max Disposti, public member.
Betty Conley, LEP member.
Jonathan Maddox, MFT member.
Leah Brew, LPCC member.
Crystal Anthony, LCSW member.
Christina Wong, LCSW member.
Thank you very much, and I do find that a quorum of the board is present for the petition hearing. May I have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Good afternoon. Melissa C. Mantle, Deputy Attorney General.
Good afternoon, Ms. Siementel, and for the petitioner.
Aaron Oden, ASW.
Good afternoon, Ms. Oden. Thank you for being here today. As we discussed off the record before the hearing, I briefly explained the procedures in this matter, and you've also observed by now a couple of them. Generally, the Deputy Attorney General will proceed first to provide an orientation of the case as well as to introduce the case packet. After that, you will have an opportunity under oath to testify and provide any additional evidence, explain why you believe your petition should be granted. You also have the right to call any witnesses on your behalf and to introduce any additional documents that you believe are appropriate. And your witnesses and yourself would obviously be subject to questioning by Ms. Siementel as well as the board members. The board is particularly concerned with rehabilitation, not relitigating the underlying conduct or discipline. And I'll just remind you again that the board members have had the opportunity to review your packet, so there's no need to repeat everything. You can certainly highlight the portions that you want the board to pay particular attention to. You won't receive a decision today. After the close of the hearing today, I will prepare a written decision on behalf of the board that within 30 days, and that will then be circulated to the board, and then they'll finalize it as soon as they are able with their press of business. Do you have any questions at this point in time?
I do not, no.
Great, thank you. Then I'll turn it over to Ms. Siementel to present the case.
Thank you. My name is Melissa Seamantle, Deputy Attorney General. I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I am here to assist the panel in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I'm here to ensure that the panel has adequate information from which to make a decision. If I may approach with the exhibit packets.
You may, thank you. Thank you so much.
A copy has been previously provided to petitioner. What is included in what I would request to have marked as Exhibit 1 is the notice of hearing, certification of license history, the petition for early termination of probation with supporting documentation. That includes 9 letters of support, 4 certificates of completion of continuing education courses, a letter from the California Department of Healthcare Services regarding petitioner's appointment as program director and administrator for Hotel California by the Sea, a work evaluation, 2 letters from the board regarding completion of certain probation requirements, petitioner's licensing exam results, a copy of petitioner's National Association of Social Workers membership card and criminal court documents, and finally, the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order.
Thank you so much. And let me ask the petitioner, do you have any objection to admission of Exhibit 1?
No.
All right, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
What I would ask to have marked as Exhibit 2 contains the psychological evaluation and psychotherapy quarterly reports, and I would also request a protective order regarding that exhibit.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Siementel has generously provided me with a proposed protective order that's partially completed. Other than confidentiality issues in the protective order, do you have any objections to admission of Exhibit 2?
No.
All right, so Exhibit 2 will be admitted subject to the protective order. I do find that it's appropriate to have a protective order entered since it relates to confidential medical and psychological information. So I will sign the order right now on the record. A copy of that order will be served on you by the Office of Administrative Hearings as well as on the Deputy Attorney General. And with that, Exhibit 2 is admitted subject to the protective order.
For a brief background, the board issued petitioner Associate Clinical Social Worker Registration Number ASW 76594 on April 26, 2017. The license expires on April 30th, 2020. The license is on probation until April 27th, 2022. On October 31st of 2016, a statement of issues was filed against petitioner in case number 200-2016-001672. The circumstances underlying the statement of issues are that petitioner had multiple criminal convictions, used alcohol in a dangerous manner, committed an act involving dishonesty, and committed acts evidencing potential unfitness to perform the functions authorized by her registration. The circumstances are, in 2009, petitioner drove a vehicle with a blood alcohol content of 0.27, 0.28 by breath. In that case, petitioner drifted into the west curb of State Route SR1 and collided with two parked cars. As a result of the collision, petitioner's car rolled and landed on its side and slid until it came back down on all four wheels. In addition to the court in that case finding that petitioner was driving under the influence, the court also found that petitioner's driving under the influence was a violation of her probation on a previous criminal case. In 2010, petitioner was convicted of driving on a suspended license due to a prior driving under the influence conviction. In 2011, petitioner was convicted of riding a bicycle with a blood alcohol content of 0.257% by breath. The circumstances in that matter are that the petitioner rode her bicycle eastbound in a westbound lane of traffic, causing a motorist to stop his car to avoid a collision. However, petitioner did not correct her course of travel and collided with the front end of the stopped vehicle. Petitioner provided the motorist with a false name, false number, and a wrong address. Petitioner told a law enforcement officer in that case that she was an alcoholic. In 2012, petitioner was convicted of public intoxication after being seen staggering as she walked down the South Coast Highway in Laguna Beach by a law enforcement officer. As a matter in aggravation in that statement of issues, petitioner failed to disclose in a prior application for licensure her 2010, 2011, and 2012 criminal convictions. Pursuant to a stipulated settlement for the statement of issues, petitioner was granted a license which was immediately revoked. However, the revocation was stayed and petitioner's license was placed on 5 years of probation. The terms of petitioner's probation include undergoing a psychological evaluation, attending psychotherapy, submitting to a drug and alcohol testing, reimbursement to the board for its probation monitoring costs, and completing coursework equivalent to 2 semester units in substance use or abuse. Petitioner has been compliant with all of her probation requirements. Petitioner is requesting early termination of her probation. Because the burden is on petitioner, I have no further statements, but would reserve the right to question petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Siementel. So now, Ms. Oden, is your opportunity to present your case. Let me just ask logistically, do you intend to testify on your own behalf?
I do.
All right, and do you have any other witnesses here to testify? Okay, and do you have any additional documents other than what's already been admitted in the packet?
Yes, and I passed.
Okay, great. And so board staff will distribute that at this time. And while she does that, why don't I go ahead and have you stand and I'll swear you in. You could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much. Please have a seat. Thank you.
Okay.
And before you get started, this is basically a single letter, as far as I can tell, that's dated November 18th, 2019, from Erin Madden, clinical director. Is that correct?
She's the clinical director and my most recent clinical supervisor of the program that I work at now. And so she knew I was coming to this and wanted to add to the packet that I already have.
Terrific. And so I'm going to mark that as Exhibit 3. Do you have any objection, Ms. Siementel, to?
No, and I have been provided a copy.
Thank you so much. All right, Exhibit 3 is admitted. And now you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
May we please get the spelling of your name?
Oh, sure, absolutely. If you could state and spell your name for the
I
record.
can. It's Erin, E-R-I-N, Oden, O-D-E-N.
Thank you so much, Ms. Oden. I think now you may proceed.
Breathe. I would like to begin by sincerely thanking the board for your willingness to allow me to meet with you today. I understand the weight of this privilege, and for it, I'm truly grateful. I'm full of hormones. As I listen to the reasons for my probation read aloud, it brings up so many emotions within me. I feel such sadness and compassion for the young woman who I was back then. It honestly is difficult to believe that I, the strong, capable, confident, self-assured woman who I am today, is the same woman who committed such acts. But I'm not here today to say that I was not responsible for my actions leading up to my probation, as I am. I take full responsibility for my past, however sad, painful, and unsightly it may be. When I think back upon that time, I know now that I was not the bad or the broken young woman that I believed I was. I was simply lost, afraid, and alone. I lacked healthy tools to deal with the life stressors that I was going through, and I didn't know how to ask for help. And quite frankly, I was full of shame, embarrassment, and pain, and I had no idea that there was a way out. I'm not sure if it's necessary to go back through the details of each infraction, as they were not choices of a whole or healthy human being. What I know is that I had a healthy upbringing. I was a loving daughter and sister, a strong student, and a hard worker. I always had strong morals and values, which made the choices that I was making cause me even more shame. I knew what I was doing was not right, and I could not stop. When I started drinking socially in my early 20s, I had no idea that it would lead to active alcoholism and loss of control of everything that I held dearly. My drinking increased around 2009, just at the time that I received my DUI. Following that incident, I attended my first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and began my journey of self-discovery. While I would like to say that I went to that first meeting and was instantly changed, we know that that is not my story. While I was able to put together long stretches of sobriety, I continued to be riddled with shame regarding my disease. I was not able to fully accept my alcoholism, as to me, being alcoholic had a really negative connotation. To be alcoholic was to be bad, to be broken, and to be unlovable. In 2010, I walked myself into a treatment center, and for the first time, I felt safe to share about my feelings while seeing a personal therapist. Therapy was such a gift, as I finally addressed the quiet pains of my childhood, the trauma that I endured, and the subsequent maladaptive core beliefs that I attached to. Because of this intensive work, I was able to find, self-acceptance and, in the end, self-love. Of course, my change did not happen overnight. It was a long and often painful road, but it was one that allowed me to have grace, have the grace to get from being that lost young girl to the woman that I am today. Throughout the time leading up to and following the receipt of my probationary ASW registration, I believe that my lifestyle choices, my professional behaviors, and my internal values have all been exemplary of my ability to practice safely today with our public as a licensed clinical social worker. Throughout my probationary period, I have remained sober from any addictive substance, and I am extremely active in my program of recovery. I have not participated in any acts that could be deemed inappropriate or unethical, and this is reflected in the many character reference letters that have been submitted on my behalf. While on probation, I have made sure to continue to grow as a clinician and a professional in our field. I participated in weekly clinical supervision as necessary for my associate social worker registration. I studied for and passed the law and ethics examination prior to the date necessary for licensure. I am a member of the National Association of Social Workers, which links me to a professional network of like-minded individuals. I completed a course through the Department of Social Services regarding administration of an adult residential facility, and then became a certified administrator. I have engaged in completion of CEUs in efforts to improve my clinical skill set and effectiveness over and above the board's recommendation for social work licensure. Furthermore, I participated recently, actually in the past 2 years, in EMDR training in efforts to increase my skills in the treatment of trauma-related issues and disorders. And finally, 2 weeks ago, I took and I passed the LCSW exam. which allows me to become a licensed clinical social worker in California. And it's been a road. So within my places of employment, my strength of character, and constant effort has been noticed and rewarded as well. I have been offered and accepted promotions, leading to roles with increased trust and responsibility. Professionally, I have been trusted as a leader among my peers. I have worked with clients ranging in age, race, gender, sexual orientation, and diagnosis. Currently, I work at a dual diagnosis facility where I specialize in trauma-focused therapy. While my past is not something that I am proud of, I don't believe that I would be able to be the empathetic and present clinician that I am today without my history. Overall, I am incredibly passionate about my work, and I look forward to supporting others through their path towards freedom on a daily basis. I understand that more goes into the process of being a safe clinician than simply remaining up to date on clinical practices and changes in the field. I have a deep understanding of my personal need to remain clean and sober in order to be an effective wife, mother, friend, and neighbor. My recovery has to be my #1 priority today, and it is. Since gaining sobriety in July of 2015, July 16th, 2015, I have been extremely active in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I recognize that every single good thing that I have earned in my life is due to my continued sobriety. My life is not due to circumstance, but rather to concentrated efforts and choices that I have made throughout the past years. Throughout my recovery, I have maintained an active relationship with my sponsor, who has over 24 years of continuous sobriety. She's a woman of dignity and grace, and I look to her for support, guidance, and mentorship. She and I attend the same home group every week, and we get together for sponsorship family get-togethers, and we participate in charity events at the Laguna Beach Club that we go to. Most importantly, I have created lasting, meaningful relationships with a core group of sober women who are walking similar paths and building their lives together, and I can lean on them for support. Personally, I have maintained an active and structured lifestyle while in my recovery. Self-care, accountability, and practice of healthy, positive coping skills has become my norm. While life's blessings have grown exponentially, and I am a person who's positive and joyful, optimistic, life still happens. I'm blessed today to have a strong support system in place and extremely healthy coping skills to rely on when things, don't go my way. Paying attention to my holistic self, my body, my mind, my spirit, has been essential in my self-care regimen. I practice yoga, I paddleboard often with my mom, I play with my daughter and my dogs at the park. I like to go on jogs, lately a lot more walks. I try to pray or meditate on a daily basis, and I love to take time to decompress, reading a book, or just kind of hanging out outside in nature. My husband and I hike, so yeah. I have maintained steady, healthy relationships with family and friends, while also being married in the summer of 2017. My husband and I welcomed our daughter into our lives in September of 2018, which has been the most amazing, beautiful, and fulfilling experience of my life. My parents live within 15 minutes of my home. So on the weekends, my husband, my child, and I, we love to go visit them and spend time talking and breaking bread, having dinner. My mom and I go on walks with my daughter, my sister. We are extremely blessed to have family so close, and we take advantage of seeing them as much as possible. Overall, I am incredibly happy being a mother while also balancing my recovery, my family, my work. I'm proud, I'm extremely proud, that my daughter, my soon-to-be son, will never have to see me take a drink of alcohol. I cannot see. I will be able to be a fully present mother to them, Ultimately, I strive to live a life so that they grow up in a stable home that values love, compassion, acceptance, and kindness. In conclusion, I am overwhelmed with gratitude for the life that I have today. I know that I would not have any of the positive things in my life that I have without my recovery. Therefore, I do not take it for granted. I am eternally grateful that no one had to be hurt by my immature and reckless actions of my past and during my active use. And I will continue to honor the part of me that knew that I needed to change. Okay. I know that it was necessary for the Board of Behavioral Sciences to take pause with granting me my initial registration. And I respect that decision. Moreover, I do believe that I have adequately demonstrated my recovery and my rehabilitation. Ultimately, regardless of the board's decision, I will continue to set healthy boundaries, assess my values, and seek consultation, both as a clinician and as a woman in recovery. I am nowhere near the end of my growth, and for that, I am grateful. So, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Oden. Ms. Siementhal, your opportunity to ask any questions.
Thank you. Let me know when you're ready.
You're okay, yeah.
You stated that in 2009, your drinking increased. What caused your drinking to increase in 2009?
Oh, goodness. I shared, I grew up in a wonderful childhood, and I was everything you wanted your kid to be. And I had this idea of what being an adult and graduating from college was supposed to look like, and maybe a timeline, I guess we'd say. And I graduated in 2007, and it didn't look like that. And I didn't have the coping skills to deal with adversity or to deal with not getting what I wanted, I guess, because I always knew that if I worked hard, I kind of could figure out how to, if I got the A's or if I showed up, I could get what I needed. And drinking, I think, kind of like the last woman who shared, I am an alcoholic. Alcohol affects me differently than it affects other people. And
Bring the mic a little bit closer.
oh, sorry. And so I started using alcohol to cope with the discomfort of where I was in my life, and it worked, and I didn't even know that it was happening. And so it was one of those slow put a frog in a pan, right, kind of situations, and without me even realizing it, it escalated.
You said in 2010 you went into a treatment center.
Mm-hmm.
When in 2010 did you go into the treatment center? Was that before or after the offense where you were riding the bicycle while under the influence of alcohol?
No timelines. So I went to treatment I've been to treatment quite a few times, actually. I went through treatment in early 2010, I think January through April. I think the 20th of January through the 20th of April. And then I left that program and I came home and I continued treatment at a program in San Clemente area in Orange County. And then I went into, after, I guess then I think that the bike incident maybe had happened. And then I went to treatment again.
The time that you went into treatment where you said that you found self-acceptance and self-love, was that the second time in 2010 that you went into treatment or during the first?
I'd like to clarify. So I began my journey towards the self-acceptance and self-love, but I mean, I don't think that I got there till probably 5 years ago. So it took time. I was extremely ashamed of being an alcoholic. When I give speeches or I tell my story, it's kind of like I explain it to people. Like, I looked at being an alcoholic like failing a spelling test. Like you just study and you memorize and you get it and you figure it out. And it wasn't like that for me. It was one of the hardest things, and still is one of the hardest things I ever did, was to get sober. And and it is the biggest gift that I ever have received.
You, based on the information in the statement of issues, you told the officer in 2011 that you were an alcoholic. When did you first really kind of take to heart or accept that you were an alcoholic?
I think probably in my treatment time around 2010, when I went to treatment, I understood that I was an alcoholic. And there's this saying, we have to accept to our innermost self, our innermost core. And
Excuse me, could you repeat that again? We have to accept?
we have to accept to our innermost self that we are alcoholic. And I knew here that I was alcoholic in my brain. Sorry, I knew, consciously that I cannot drink like other people, and I didn't know in my heart. And so that took more time. But probably 2010, I knew that I was not able to drink like a normal human being.
You stated that your sobriety date is in July of 2015. What caused you to become sober starting in July of 2015?
I think I'm 35 now. I was 30 at the time. I don't want to say it was like when I was at my height. It was when I was in my mid-20s, and I think it was a process of self-discovery and getting to know who I am as a human being, and accepting that everybody's got stuff, and now I think it's the beautiful thing. I have so much. I try to exemplify that and model it for my clients that, nobody's perfect. There's no such thing. And thank God for that, because I don't want to talk to her. She's not going to make me feel good about myself. So I kind of had to come to a place where I could look myself in the mirror and be okay with who I was as a human being, and flaws and all. And I think that I realized that was actually my biggest gift, is that I have this colorful past, I like to call it now, and I'm very open about it. And I was given grace to set aside the shame.
Prior to the application that you submitted to the board that resulted in the statement of issues, you submitted a application for licensure to the board, is that right?
Yes.
And in that first application for licensure, you did not disclose the convictions that you received starting in 2010, but you disclosed your 2009 DUI, is that right?
Yes.
Can you please explain for the board how you overlooked those 3 convictions that you received?
There's no excuse. It was complete oversight. I had built up in my head that this DUI was the biggest thing that had ever happened to me, and I had heard so many stories about the DUI being so bad, and seen in such a bad light with the board, and so I confronted that, and I wrote a letter, and I got a bunch of letters from other people, and I understood the process of the live scan. I had to do live scan when I went through my clinical practicum with working for the school district, so I understood that whatever was in my past would show up. I had never seen my live scan, and it was irresponsible of me. And the second that they told me that I had missed these other ones, I immediately.
Could you slow down just a little bit?
Yes. The second that they told me that I had not disclosed the other offenses, I immediately provided all of the information and the explanation, and I in no way was trying to be deceitful to the board. I did learn from it, though, definitely. I need to pause and make sure I'm really looking at things, because a big part of that was the shame. I didn't want to look at my past, and so I didn't want to look at the paperwork or really dive into it. So I've learned, and it's uncomfortable, right, to look myself in that mirror sometimes, but I've learned to do it. So
It sounds from your description that the 2009 DUI, like, I think you kind of said that it was a big thing. How is, if it's changed at all in your perception from when you did your first application, how, if at all, is it different in your view of the 2009 DUI, different from being just under the influence of alcohol and not even driving, essentially drunk in public? How has your kind of looking at everything changed, if at all, since you did the first application?
good question. I think for me, it's just that if I am imbibing an alcohol or any substance, I'm not safe to be with the public. It's putting others and myself at risk. And so they are equally as bad because they could lead to the same thing anyway. And that incident, now that I look back on it, if I were to sit with a client and she were to tell me that she was drunk in the, at a random bar in the street by herself, I would be terrified for her. And I was not able to see myself in that light at that time because I was too close to it. If that answers your question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you currently see a therapist?
I do, yes.
How often?
I see her once a week.
Do you attend either NA or AA meetings?
Yes, I attend 3 AA meetings a week, sometimes more, but usually 3.
Are you working the 12 steps?
Currently, I'm worked 10, 11, and 12, but I have worked through the steps twice with my sponsor. Our sponsorship group, we read through the book and go through them consistently, and I have worked them with a sponsee. However, I'm not sponsoring right now. My life's just kind of busy, and sponsees take a lot of time, and they deserve more time than I really have to give.
Are you currently, or have you been in the past of service?
Within like AA?
Yes.
Yes, I have. I've had service, commitments. Like I was the birthday board girl for a 2-year commitment. We have a sponsorship dinner once a year, and I always volunteer for that. That just recently happened. And I help plan it and get the food and pass it out. And I do that with my sponsor every year. It's just fun.
Do you have a relapse prevention plan?
In so many words, it's to keep doing exactly what I'm doing, which I have no plans to change. I believe, how do I want to put this? My life is too big to wonder which thing is the one that's going to change it, or that's not going to matter. So I value all of it, and I have too much to lose. And it gives me so much. It's given me so many gifts. I have to constantly be introspective and look at myself and be self-aware. And while that's not always comfortable, I get the benefit of it. I'm one of 4 kids, and I see how while my siblings don't struggle with this same disease, so they don't have to potentially go through the same, life experiences, or they don't have to be as introspective or, slow down and really look at themselves. They don't get the gifts of that. And so I'm really grateful for being able to see that from that perspective now.
You have served approximately 2 years of your 5-year probation term, is that correct?
About 2.5, yeah.
Why do you want your probation terminated?
I do believe that I am safe to practice with the public. I don't think that I am a risk, and I have no intention of drinking again ever in my entire life. And I have a strong program of recovery with strong, coping skills. I think it would give me agency and allow me to feel trust from the board that that I can do this, and the belief that I don't know, that I'm able to. So yeah. And I mean, it is just like everyone has always said, it's a financial difficulty for my family and the time and all of that. But I mean, that goes without saying. And it really isn't it's not an excuse to end, because I understand the reasoning for it. So
If your probation is terminated, would you still see a therapist?
yes.
How often do you think you would see a therapist?
We've talked about it, and probably we'd start by stepping down maybe two times a month. Right now, we really just check in. I mean, and 1 week, I don't know if it flies. So by the time I see her, not that much has happened, and we've done some amazing work, and I love therapy. I have been in therapy on my own multiple times throughout, before I even started the probation period 2.5 years ago. That's why I got into this field. And what I do recognize is that I cannot be of service to anyone else if I am not okay within myself, right? I cannot fill your glass with an empty glass in my own hand. So I recognize that I have to do my own work.
If your probation is terminated, would you still attend AA meetings, and if so, how often?
Absolutely. And probably around the same, maybe, with a little bit, if I miss one this week, then I don't have to stress out about finding one at night that day, but I'll make up for it the next week. But AA is, it's not a punishment for me. It's it's woven into the fabric of my life. So that's where all my friends are. I don't really know anyone else outside of AA anymore. So.
And since you submitted your petition, have you been convicted of any criminal offenses?
I have not, no.
No further questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Siementel. All right, now the board members have an opportunity to ask questions. Again, starting on my very left there with Ms. Brown.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Disposti?
Actually, as well, but thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing. Thank you.
Madam President?
Thank you for coming in. I have no questions.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Maddox?
Thank you for coming in. It's been delightful to hear your story and your road to recovery. I did have one or two.
Yes.
So you described that when you finished college, one of the things that sort of was a contributing factor to your alcohol use was that it sounded like you had a difficulty managing life's challenges, like you had a very idealistic view of life, and sort of when reality didn't line up with that, you weren't sure how to cope with that. And so I'm wondering, could you share an example maybe over the last 6 months of when you've run into life's challenges or a challenge, and sort of how you've managed that? Like what have you done?
Well, I'm closing escrow on a house next week, and that's been challenging.
Make sure you sign all those forms.
It's, this process is extremely, it's challenging, right? To be able to face my peers, right? And admit my wrongs in front of them is uncomfortable, to say the least, right? And I guess, I was married 2 years ago, and then we had a baby 9 months later, so that was challenging. And then I got pregnant again. So it's a lot of change, and being able to pause and really handle it with grace. And what I try to remember is that if I'm being critical of you, I have to pause and look at self and go, what's going on with me, right? Because I must be critical of self at that point. Other things, my father had a heart attack a couple of years back. My father-in-law passed away in June, so I was able to be supportive of my husband through that, and it was really difficult on his family. And we've had, difficulties with financial things, just the normal, I think, probably life things. The difference is, and even things like, our my husband's grandfather got scabies, and then we thought my daughter might have it, and luckily she didn't. But just dealing, and my mother-in-law was crying, and and she's like, "How are you not freaking out?" And at that moment, it was kind of special because my sister-in-law, she goes, "They have different coping skills than we do, and it's." Bring it and I'll deal with it. What am I going to do? So that's really how I've kind of approached life now, is with a little bit more, it's a little lighter. There's no such thing as a big deal anymore. I feel like I've really, I could have died, and this, I still can, right? This disease is deadly, and I've had friends pass away that I've been very close with, and I have had clients actually, because I work in the field. I've had clients OD and die, and it just reminds me of how serious this is for me, and and to take it lightly. So, if that answers your question.
No, you did. And I want to say congratulations on the home, and
Oh, thank you.
very sorry for those family challenges, but I just do want to reiterate, it sounds like you have made a tremendous transformation since the person you were back in 29, 10, 11, 12. So thank you for coming.
Ms. Brew?
Hi, thanks for coming. First of all, congratulations on passing your licensure exam.
Thank you.
It's easier to get pregnant than it is to do that, so.
It really is.
And congratulations on the new baby. I'm like, what should I congratulate her for? And I'm like, the licensure exam, that's the thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I guess bear with me for a minute, because I'm trying to articulate in my mind where I need more clarity, and maybe it's there and I'm on the edge of it. So I guess in the foreground is that your sobriety is new.
Mm-hmm.
You're really early, and you look really good on paper, and the things you're saying and what you're doing, you're on a beautiful path. But as I look at your packet, I see this alternating between being highly controlled, overachieving, perfectionistic, and then this completely out of control, like flopping back and forth in your life that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're starting to find your ground. I guess maybe my question is, you're going with the flow when life happens, but that stuff outside of you, will you let yourself be messy? Do you know what I mean by that?
Mm-hmm. And are you?
Yeah, messy and imperfect. Yeah.
Yes. I'm not perfect at that, I guess. But yes, I think I've been forced into it almost. Like this was all in the making. I grew up in a household that did not value emotional authenticity, and it was a pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get it done kind of atmosphere, and so embracing the vulnerability and the imperfection has been a challenge and a road for me. But I notice it in just even like little things. I'll be running a group and writing on the board, and I'm like, I don't know how to spell that. I'll spell it wrong, and I'll turn around to the clients. I'm like, how do you spell? I don't know. That's not a huge thing, but even that, sometimes I can go, that is not who I used to be, right? I would rather, I want to hold up that perfect, I know it all kind of thing, image. And I'm a human being. And so I think that it's important sometimes for us to just let our humans show. And I don't know.
Yeah. It sounds like you let yourself be more vulnerable now. That's where a lot of your work has been.
Definitely. And I find that the more vulnerable that I get, the more receptive people are. So, and now I'm the sibling that my siblings call, and they're like, how do I deal with this emotional thing? Or my relationship is and I'm like, well, just be honest. So, and I spit AA jargon at them, or therapy jargon, and they don't like it. But I think that that's why, is because even, we'll go to family events and there's still kind of an air of, we have to kind of keep it in the box, and I'm not really afraid to venture out of it, so.
That helps. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
that.
All right, Ms. Anthony?
I've been making lots of comments and not questions, but it's because I feel like I commend the work you've done. I feel like when you find that therapist or that person, the sponsor, whoever it may be, it makes a big difference. I'm sure you can attest to that. As I can hear it, you've been saying a lot of positive things of those people. Who would you say are your 3 biggest support, like, humans in this world?
My mother, we have, we went through that teenaged, early 20s, mid 20s horribleness, right, during this whole process. I think she was just terrified. And now we're very close. But like I said, she does come from that background where there is kind of the critical voice. And so I do have to separate from her a little bit. My sponsor, she just comes to everything with so much grace and acceptance, and she has no problem telling me how it is, which I appreciate. I'll come to her like, oh, my husband's driving me nuts about this, and she's like, well, have you looked at his side? So I need that, and I think we all do. And I have this core group of, there's 5 of us. We all started our sobriety path at the same time. We're on a group text message, and those girls, those women, we all are at kind of, 2 of us lived together for a while. We met our husbands at the same time. We're both had children at the same time. We're both, buying, and all of us are buying homes. And so I'd say like that unit, they are probably my biggest form of support, because they'll champion me, but they also have no problem being like, what the heck's going on? And we'll all do that for each other. And so we keep it really authentic, and it's refreshing, I guess. So, yeah.
And I couldn't help but notice, because I feel like, and I'm just gonna make comments on this, but you're from Orange County, and there's this like, there's a level of like perfectionism that comes from that, and so I want to acknowledge that, because I feel like we acknowledge a lot of communities, and that community in and of itself can be that way sometimes. So it takes a level of strength to be able to say like, I have a problem, or I am working on something. So I want you to like really recognize like you are strong, and like you are really brave for being able to have that voice, and you are working with a community of people that now are looking at you as somebody who they can actually connect with. And I think that sometimes the broken pieces in us are actually strengths. And so I want to just acknowledge you and thank you for your words today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wong.
Congratulations for all the wonderful things that you have done. And I just want to really appreciate, when you, in your testimony, when you said that, you enter into multiple times of the treatment. And really, it's after, when you get on BBS probation that it's really started to stick. And also when you said that, that discovery about yourself, really, it takes time. And so, so I really see that, kind of on paper, the person that presented, way back when 10 years ago, it's very different, than the, compared to this very mature person. And so I want to congratulate for your wonderful effort.
Thank you.
On the other hand, now. This is what therapists do, right? So anyway, I'm not therapizing you. But really, my question is like now, I know you have a very wonderful support system, and yet you're also launching into a very different page of life. Now you have your license, and, you have another child upcoming. And so it's a different level of stress, right? So how are you going to launch into this very new page? Because you're no longer just repairing your brokenness, but how do you actually, making sure that, that perfectionism is not really affecting, yourself and also your clients?
Okay, so many questions in one. That's good. I like to say that all these things that have come up, we focus on the good, but there have been the hard times, right? And it isn't always every day easy peasy, right, and beautiful. I just keep saying yes to the things that come in front of me, right? And so if it's a new role, then I say yes to it, and I am active in like my spiritual life, and I really do. I try to take pause with things and slow down because it is my natural state, and I think you guys pulled my card, to try to, achieve and achieve. The thing is I never got any self-esteem through that. Confidence, I found, right, and this is like, you know, but you don't know, right, is confidence is so different than self-esteem and self-love. And so to answer your question, I'm gonna have to take it just a day at a time, just like I do, I have everything else, and be open to the fact that it may not be as easy a ride as I would hope that it would be. And the knowledge that, and I really believe this, is that growing pains, right? That even if it's uncomfortable, that I'm gonna come out different. And so it's okay. It's all okay, yeah.
So letting go of the control,
Yeah.
a day at a time. Very good. Thank you very
I
much.
don't have any control. I've got a 1-year-old, let's be real.
Thank you.
Yeah, she teaches me.
All right, thank you so much. Ms. Siementhal, did you have any follow-up?
No, thank you.
All right, and just to make sure you had an opportunity, anything else you'd like to add that we haven't discussed yet?
No, I just want to thank you all for having me. Yeah.
Terrific.
It was a lot easier than I thought. Even though it was uncomfortable. But thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and testifying. That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The
Your
case
Honor,
is-
really quick, was the letter marked as Exhibit 3 and admitted?
I believe it was,
Okay,
but
thank you.
let's just, out of abundance of caution, that is Exhibit 3. There's no objection from you on that?
No.
All right, so Exhibit 3 is definitively admitted.
Thank you.
All right. So that then, the record is closed, the case is submitted for decision, and we're off the record in this matter. Thank you so much.
Let's take a 5-minute break. Try to keep it short, but we will take a 5-minute break. It takes time.
We're taking a 5-minute break. 10.